You're watching Rain Knight Gaming.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Rain Knight Gaming. I'm Rain Knight, and it's time for the last meta watch for GD1. And for this meta watch, I just want to do an overview of everything that was kind of the main topping decks, because we had a pretty good meta of, several decks that were just kind of going around and around, and it was really interesting to watch. Hi, Zelda. Yes, my dog says hello. And so we're going to point out the decks that, kind of ended up being the main builds for those decks. But first, I do like to highlight any of my subscribers that do really well and post their lists on my Discord. This is Zang410, and he is holding strong with the Xeon Red Green. And you can see he's won several things with this. So this is his 31st version of the deck, and he's been playing it pretty much since the beginning, which is really cool. So you can see this thing is, heavy on the low to the ground stuff, but does have some top end things. So it's more even than a straight aggro deck. You've got your Zaku's, all your gem versionalities, the 2/1/2/2s. He only plays the structure deck, Char's Zaku, and which is kind of interesting. A lot of people tend to go to the one that gives you the token, but he likes the one that gives him a searcher. Granted, he plays all those cards, so he probably has a good chance of hitting stuff. Adds in a little bit of breach, you gotta have that. People are loving the Rick Dom lately. It kind of fell out of the meta at one point, but has clawed its way back in there. Just playing two bases, giving himself a little extra damage. Then you see he plays the whole Kashtira build, and he's got the Zaku, he's got the Galgoogs, and then high end, with his big beaters up there. Then, he just plays a couple commands and then the normal pilots. So he plays 8, 9, 10 pilots. So not too bad. Big ups to him for doing a great job, and thank you for sharing. If you guys want to have a chance to be part of the Meta Watch, go ahead, hit up my Discord, and if you guys win out, let me know. You might be in the next Meta Watch. Now, going over to the main meta decks, I just grabbed like 7 things that have done fairly well recently, so they're more up-to-date builds of these decks that do really well. First up, we do have the white-green Operation Meteor style blocker build that has been doing really good all season, and as you can see, plays all the good stuff, plays the big blocker, plays the big damage, just survives that in-game and takes over. Then we go into another style of the Operation Meteor, and this is the Breach build, which is really cool seeing the Shenlong stuff go in there. So they're really trying to get added Breach with their 2 big Breachers. So very, very interesting. And that's just, different versions of the same deck, but it's a little different and plays a little different. Very, very cool. Then we've got our first of the unicorn builds. This is a blue-white blocker style deck. But as people started to understand the unicorn stuff, it did add a little bit of top end to it for when it got to that end, had more finishing power. So very interesting. And this thing has just been in the meta since beta. Blue-white was like the king of the original beta meta and has held strong throughout the whole thing. Although I feel like it's gotten outplayed as people understand the game a little bit more, and then more aggro or high damage builds have kind of overtaken it, but it's still a really solid deck and probably will in the next set. Okay, then we've got, this is the Cyber New Type deck, or as people would call it, the Ping deck. It's a version of it. This one, uses the Cyber New types, and you just have really good top end up here. And you just kind of like, you tempo people in the beginning, and then through the middle to the late, you just can make it so they just cannot keep a board up. And it can be really, really a pain in the butt to play against. Actually, going back to that one really quick, I remember when Ping first hit the meta in the original beta event, we were watching Eagle's Nest, and a guy came out of nowhere with this Ping deck. People were like, what is this? Because it had been blue-white blocker the whole time with a little bit of aggro. And then this person figured out this original list and just kind of like invented it, which is really, really cool. If you were that guy that invented that, heads up to you, you're awesome. Okay, now we get into, this is the blue-white, but it has the Academy stuff, which is really kind of interesting. I started playing around with the Academy things, letting you use aerial rebuild along with all of your other blockers, and letting people start using Suletta, which Suletta is such a good card. I just feel like this one tipped on it a little bit, but that's a card that I feel like is going to be very powerful down the line, because getting that extra resource is going to be amazing eventually. But this has kind of been middle of the pack meta-wise, but you know, it's a blue-white blocker style deck that's just a little bit different. Some people also call it the Freedom deck. You know, you control your opponent, you outgrind them. That's how this deck works. Then we get into, this is the blue-white Tempo deck. This is actually the deck that I play, or a version of it. And this is the one blue-white that plays really low to the ground and is more of an aggro style deck with the added, you know, ping damage, blockers, and, you know, popping things back to the hand, that kind of stuff to just control while doing your aggro. It's a really fun deck. This person likes playing the Lithiths. Last time I played it, I put the Lithiths in there because I saw this one and it didn't go so well. So there are several different builds of this, and this guy obviously did pretty good, and I've seen people do very good with this deck. And aggro. Yeah, you can't talk about the meta without having the aggro deck in here. And this is kind of the OG, you know, Rush aggro deck, the 1 Year War. Plays super low to the ground, plays all the Char stuff, plays a couple Armor things for that little bit of extra damage, lets you get the Searchers, lets you get the bases. It's just really strong, really fast. It is interesting, about halfway through, you know, the first set is when people really started going towards the Corsica base, because they found out just getting those added units on the board are really, really beneficial. So it was really interesting to see that start to come into the meta, because they used to play like the pinging base, or they'd play, you know, the one that gives you the 3/1 token or whatever it is, 1/1 token. And so they would just play like that, and they figured out this thing, yeah, it's heavy at 3/3, but it's just super beneficial. So really fun deck, and of course you're always going to see it. Now we get into the last one that I'm going to highlight here, and this is the new Barbattoos deck. Really cool. This thing has burst onto the meta. At first, I was like, I don't know if it's going to be really good without GDO2 giving you those added cards, but it's been pulling down some like firsts and seconds all over the place. You always see it near the top now. That's probably a mix of people not being used to its playstyle and some of the cards being really good against some of the meta decks. You know, your Fatal Strike is taking out those warts, and that taking out the Lithiths that it can really just slow you down, and this lets you clear right through them. Also gives you your ping damage from several different sources, and then the new suppression is super nasty if you can get it going. This one's really good because, you know, it has an early game, middle game, and late game. It's a little aggro-y, but you're really trying to get to that end and control and have that power right at the end of the game. So really, really cool deck. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video, and that is it for GDO1 meta. I am really excited for GDO2 to come out and to go to these events and get these new cards and hopefully build something really, really cool. If you guys have a deck that you're looking to play, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll see you guys on the next Meta Watch. But you know what I always say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya.